There are three major areas of interest for market watchers in this part of the world with regards to these presidential talks. The first is the elephant in the financial room, if you like. That is, of course, the issue of trade between the two countries after the interim trade deal was finally brokered after months and months of negotiations last year. There are still many unresolved issues, though, after that trade deal was agreed on. The US accuses China of being way behind its promised level of agricultural goods buying in the US and also being slow to make reforms to intellectual property rights. This comes as US trade representatives are currently touring Asia, meetings in India, South Korea and in Japan, but not with their Chinese counterparts yet. So there's some level of expectation that after this presidential summit there could be announcements of a new round of trade talks between the two countries, something that Washington has been actively pushing for. The next issue is of financial transparency. China has long refused to allow US regulators access to the audits of Chinese firms that are listed in the US. That's because of concerns Beijing has over a national security risk. The US says that this exposes investors to the potential risk of fraud and is pushing for more access. There are expectations of some level of compromise here, not least because of Beijing's own opening up to the international world of its own domestic market. Back in August, the Wall Street firm JP Morgan and Chase became the first of its kind to be given permission to take full control of a Chinese securities venture, and there are plenty more Wall Street firms waiting in line, hoping that an improved relationship between the US and China could give them the same level of access. The final issue is of concern with regards to any large-scale moves on the part of either government that could derail the markets entirely, whether they be in the form of sanctions, whether they be in the form of barring large tech companies from operating in one another's domain. There is huge expectation of a rapid expansion in China from the US-listed company Tesla, and there's also a huge interest from the US in a potential listing from the Chinese tech giant ByteDance, the owner of TikTok, that itself was the target of a potential ban under the Trump administration from operating in the US. So a great deal of institutional and individual investor interest in the outcome of this presidential summit. Richard Kimber for SABC News in Hong Kong.